Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of NFIHammer. This episode is a little different in that what I am doing is I'm looking back in the last 6 weeks that I have started this miniature Warhammer painting hobby and reevaluating what I've bought, where I'm up to, and just basically taking stock of where I am at this point. If this video is well received, I think it might be useful to do check-ins every, important landmark, maybe 6 months, etc. And just sort of reflecting on what purchase I've made and recommending or not recommending certain things. As I'm a complete beginner, I've only started in Christmas. I really didn't have any sort of understanding on what I needed or what I didn't need, and as none of my friends are in this hobby, I kind of was just figuring out alone and trying to look at YouTube videos from experts trying to figure it out. So what I started with originally was this Warhammer 40,000 paints tool set. So this was what my wife bought me for Christmas to kind of push me over the ledge and get started, because I've been talking about the hobby for a long time. I'm going to go through the costs in Australian dollars or dollarydoo money for people that are familiar with that episode of The Simpsons. So this was $77 retail. I don't know how much you bought it for, but just going off the Games Workshop price, that's how much it costs. To me, this was a pretty good purchase. It has 13 paints in it, so that works out at $5.92 paint, so definitely getting a discount by buying bulk. And then they also give you a brush, which I actually have been too afraid to use because I don't want to mess it up and ruin it. Someone in the comments said that using metal paints on brushes destroys them, so I'm kind of glad that I'm kind of keeping that in my back pocket for when I get a bit more experienced. Then there's also the clippers, which I use all the time, and you can watch me using them in all the videos. And then the mold line scraper. So honestly, I'd recommend just throwing that in the bin. I spent so much time trying to get mold lines and, just bits of the sprue off. And it wasn't working, and I felt so stupid. And then somebody in the comments, again, thanks to everyone with their suggestions, pointed out that it's a pretty substandard tool. And the minute I bought a hobby knife, which I'll talk about later, complete game changer. So honestly, I think a butter knife would be better in most situations. So moving on to the second item is the Getting Started with Warhammer 40k. So this is like a magazine that shows you how to assemble and paint them, as well as explain how to play the games and a bit of the lore and background. So it's a really good jumping off point for somebody that has no idea what they want to do. It comes with one Necron Warrior and one Ultramarine, and at $28 retail, it's a little bit on the expensive side if you're looking just at the models, but if you factor in the book and kind of a launch pad, it's sort of okay value. I wouldn't super recommend it, but if you're kind of stuck on where to start, then yeah, it's definitely a good point. Because originally for me, I was actually going to use Ultramarines as my first army, but when I painted the Necron, I was like, I'm enjoying this a lot more, and that kind of shifted me in that direction. So after I got those two presents for Christmas, I needed to actually go and buy some more stuff before I actually could use it. So I went to Kmart, which is our big, warehouse type store thing, and I got a 6-pack of brushes for $6.50. They're just the round, sort of synthetic brushes. They're not great, but honestly, now that I've used a couple of different things, I still go back to them occasionally. I also bought a 15-piece value brush set for $3.25. So 15 brushes for $3 should have sent off some alarm bells that they're not very good quality, but obviously my brain wasn't working. So these are really horrible. I do use them occasionally for dry brushing just because they're dry, but honestly the bristles come off and get stuck in the paint. I really should probably just throw these in the bin. And then I also got 2-pack of 1 liter food containers. So these are just Tupperware containers, but I put some paper towel and some paper bake in it, just that I've got lying around the kitchen, and I turn it into a wet palette. So I've been using that pretty much, exclusively. And yeah, for $2, and then you get a free container that to store some extra leftovers in. Very cheap. And then actually to do the priming of the models, I went to Bunnings, which is that big warehouse, hardware store. And I bought a white spray paint and a black spray paint for $15.95 each. If you're starting off, maybe just pick one. I was trying to do some experiments to see which one is better. So if you like your models really bright, then get the white. If you rather them have a bit of a dark edge to it, or a bit more like realistic colors, maybe use the black. But again, it's just personal preference, but you definitely don't need both. That was kind of overkill. But again, I was just kind of experimenting. So once I had all of that, I had the opportunity then to put the two starter models together. And that's what you can see here. And yeah, I was really happy with how it turned out. So after I finished the two models, I was really eager to just keep going. I sort of was getting into it and had run out of things to paint. So at my local post office, I just happened to perchance see that they had this Warhammer 40k Imperium magazine, issue 25. And they were selling it for $13.90, which I think is a little bit cheaper than it's meant to be. And it came with 5 Necron Immortals. And so I just snapped that up like impulse purchase. And you can buy those 5 Immortals for $61 on Games Workshop. So yeah, you're really saving about $40 or $40 dollarydoo's at that price. So yeah, this is what they look like all assembled. So I had a really good time assembling that. I quite enjoyed it. Check out the video if you haven't seen it. And then after I did those 5, I wanted more. I was really hooked on Necrons at this point. And so I went onto eBay and I found that you could buy 10 Necron Warriors and 3 Scarab Swarms for about $30. And again, this is pretty good value because they sell for about $77 on Games Workshop. If you're lucky, you can get Imperium magazine issue 28 and 29 for $20 each. So that works out to be $40 as well, as another way of getting them cheap. And yeah, I really enjoyed. I hadn't done anything of this bulk size before, so that was really challenging to get 10 warriors assembled and painted. And then the 3 scarabs were the first sort of non-humanoid shape, things I've ever painted. I've never painted any terrain or anything like that. So I had a really good fun time putting those together. Definitely recommend that. And I also bought Necron Overlord at the same time from the same seller for $19. And again, it's not as amazing saving because you can buy them new for $29 or from Imperium magazine for $20 on issue 8. But I really recommend this model. I had heaps of fun painting it. There's so much detail in the gems and the weapon and the orbs and stuff. So I definitely enjoyed that. Also, the postage, because I bought them both at the same time, was $9.90. So that's something to factor in when you're looking at eBay and other places versus just going to a brick and mortar store, is that you have to pay for shipping. And then I needed some more equipment and some more paint at this point to get that Overlord looking as good as I did. So at the same corner store, Australia Post, they were selling a hobby knife for $9.90. So I picked that up, and yeah, definitely a game changer. Go get one of those. Don't use the one that's in the starter kit. I also went to my first ever Warhammer store and picked up Ardcoat, which is kind of like a glossy glaze, and Storm Vermin Fur, which I use for the bases. So check out that video if you haven't. But yeah, you don't need this. This is definitely something optional for both of those. You can make the Storm Vermin colour by just mixing Korax white and Batten black. I also went and got some PVA glue for $5.99 from Kaisercraft. And then I got some Montimar brush set. So this is my good quality brushes for $12.95. And I bought just a regular dry palette for $1.50. I still pretty much use my wet palette, but sometimes it comes in handy for like mixing up the PVA glue to be diluted and stuff like that. So I bought a lot of stuff so far, and I haven't really regretted any of those purchases. Now I'm moving into the territory where I did kind of regret them. So I bought some grass for the bases because I was going to try and make some alien, foliage. And I bought 2 different colors so I could mix them together. And they were $9.89 each, and so $19.78 total. And I was being a bit stingy, and I was like, I'll get the 6mm length grass because, it's more value because it's the same price as the 2mm or the 4mm. And as you can see here, it's did not work out. It kind of looks a bit silly, and yeah, I haven't really used it, so definitely regret purchasing that. I also bought desert sand and stone. So this is a pre-made base material that you can PVA glue on, and you're sort of just meant to glue it on and you're done. But I'm painting over it to kind of make it more alien and Necron-y, so I'm not really using it correctly. I'm sure if you were kind of doing some sort of desert, bases and you wanted that sort of texture, it'd be really good value. But I'm purely using it just for texture, and I think you could probably find stuff in your backyard for free. So I do use some bigger stones for free in my backyard, but I couldn't find anything that was really happy at the time. So I bought it. In hindsight, I should have probably just looked a bit harder, and I probably would have found something. So yeah, it depends on your own personal situation on that one. Then I bought another Imperium magazine, issue 24, because it had 2 more paints that I wanted. So it had Rekarth Flesh and Nuln Oil. So that really was pretty much cost price. It's probably, $1.50 more expensive getting it via the magazine rather than just buying the paints directly. But the magazine had some cool stuff in it, so I didn't really mind paying a little bit extra. And then finally, it was the first piece of real Warhammer official box set that I'd actually bought myself, because I had the Christmas presents and then I've got it secondhand via eBay. Was the Warhammer 40k Recruit Edition. So these sell for $65 at Games Workshop, and I got it for $51.35 from Gap Games. All the links for all of this stuff is below if you need them. And this comes with a Royal Warden, another 10 Necron Warriors, and 3 more Scarab Swarms. So I really just kind of wanted to bulk up my army, and I was also wanting to paint a Royal Warden as well. And so again, these box sets are pretty good value for what you get in them. And I'm hoping to kind of offload and sell the Primaris Lieutenant and the Assault Interceptors, maybe secondhand on eBay or something, just to try and, recoup some of that money. But if not, they look kind of fun to paint. And the box set also came with a 64-page manual that goes into a lot of, cool lore and details. And it comes with a gaming mat that you can see here, range rulers and dice, data sheets, as well as transfer sheets, which I haven't tried yet, but they look kind of interesting. So yeah, definitely good value getting those starter sets like Recruit Edition and Command Edition and those sorts of things. So that's it. After 6 weeks, this is what I've kind of collected. It's quite a lot. Some of that time was off work from Christmas time, so I had a bit more time to spend on the hobby. But other than that, yeah, it's just kind of what I've been doing after work, as well as putting these videos together. So adding it all up, I've spent $143 on the models. So I'm hoping to still recoup some of this from the Ultramarines. But it was surprisingly kind of what I expected. It, that also includes the books and rulers and mats and stuff. So there's some extra freebies in there in addition to the models. What did surprise me was I spent $188 on the paints and brushes. So I really didn't think it was going to be that high. But that's including the Christmas present gifts, and I've just put the retail price for those. It does come with the knife, hobby knife, and some other things like that as well. And I'm, thinking that it will last a long time before I'll need to go and replenish those spray paints and just regular paints. And then for things that I regretted, the grass and the sand and stone, that was only $33. So all up $365 total. But yeah, I've really enjoyed every minute of the hobby, and I've been enjoying putting the videos together, and I've really valued and appreciated all the feedback and comments and just the general kindness and supportiveness of the community. So thank you to everybody that's been watching those videos. Let me know if this sort of kind of checkpoint, check-in videos something that people are interested in, just to kind of gauge their own where they're up to in the hobby, or sort of where to expect to go, or things to avoid, and things that you definitely need. So yeah, thanks everybody, and thanks for watching.